Okay, so the first the first thing, I sent you this link, or it's in the notes here. Let me pull it up on the screen. Um, this conspiracy theory for Roaring Kitty joining GameStop, the board of directors. Have you have you seen this?
I've seen some conversations circulating around this. It is very difficult to tell. It is very interesting that the number of shares that he owns would effectively, I think, what is the total number of shares outstanding on GME now?
Um,
Let's see. So he's not quite there. I was thinking maybe he crossed the 10% beneficial ownership line, which is a point in which you have to register um, differently. And of course, now you're at a point where you're owning a substantial portion of a company. But like for example, Warren Buffett always tries to avoid the 10% beneficial ownership and will often kick shares loose to stay below that 10% line. I'm
what
wondering
happens
if
if they get above 10%?
there's two separate laws in the securities law from the 1930s. This goes back forever, that require different reporting about your positions because you're now effectively a beneficial owner of the company, and you own so much of it that you're no longer just like a small shareholder in the company. I don't know the exact securities law, but I know that it's relevant in many cases where that 10% mark can be crossed. With GME though, I'm trying to grab their shares outstanding because I'm curious what percentage he would be at with um, 9 million shares now. So not even close. Like there's 426 million shares outstanding. So, with 9 million shares, he would be at 2% of the
Right.
company, which is still like he owns 2% of GameStop. That's crazy.
Well, let me read this conspiracy theory because I
Okay.
I really love this thread. Um, so this comes from at Superbot OTC, and he says, today, Roaring Kitty revealed his updated position, showing he sold most of his calls and exercised one third, increasing his common share position to 9 million shares. This is the exact same number of shares Ryan Cohen initially disclosed when he became involved with GameStop. This lines up quite well with Kitty's recent tweet of the Office meme with him shaking hands with a GME executive.
Hmm.
I'm sure we've all seen that so far. Um, he continues to say, the night following this meme, GameStop added an Easter egg to their website. Internet detectives were quick to find it. If you click the copyright symbol at the bottom of the page, it gave a reference to Kitty. Did you see this?
I
That if you
didn't. I
on the
didn't see the
GameStop
Easter egg.
website, yeah,
Mm-mm.
if you scroll down uh, to the bottom of the page and then you click on the copyright, I think they do it here. Then there we go. Then a kitty would show up.
Okay.
So that's on the GameStop website. The today GameStop's annual meeting was cut short. This is on I think it was yesterday. Today's GameStop annual meeting was cut short by technical issues. Some were curious as to the possibility of a DDoS attack, and this person saying, "I'm here to tell you there was no DDoS attack. There were no faulty servers, and it was all intentional." The meeting has been rescheduled to this Monday, June 17th. And what's significant about that date? It's the National Take Your Cat to Work Day. Why would Roaring Kitty want more common shares rather than rolling into into further out expiry call contracts? Because he's about to join the board of directors. The
Okay.
mother of all short squeezes isn't over; it's just started. Now, I mean, I love a good conspiracy theory, especially when it doesn't matter. Those are my favorite ones. Flat Earth is my favorite conspiracy theory of all time, because it makes no difference to my life, and so this makes no difference to my life as well. But if it turns out to be true, let's say they do drop this bomb, do you do you imagine one that, or let me put it in a different way, would it make you want to buy any GameStop shares, thinking that, hey, this might squeeze real hard?
I think it changes the narrative about what Keith is really trying to accomplish. And I find this approach more impressive than the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that he's just been pumping and dumping this the whole time. From day one, rolling over his initial 40 or 50 million dollar payday into another 300% move to get him into the $200 million range, only to then, effectively sell into this buying fervor that he's created by putting memes on Twitter. Um, in order to do a rug pull that large, or a pump and dump that large, you would have to create enough activity, and he did that. So of course, the initial conspiracy theories were all around the idea that he was just taking advantage of retail traders. This is a better scenario, and I like it because it basically puts him in the seat of being an activist investor. He's something more akin to a Carl Icahn or a Bill Ackman, where what his real objective here is to capitalize on big moves that are occurring in the market so that he can pull together a large position in a company that he has a lot of faith in, that he sees a real future for. And he's done nothing but explain how much he believes in Ryan Cohen and how much he believes in the future of GameStop. And whether or not he's right on this is kind of irrelevant to me. He's acting the part of an activist investor. And from that perspective, I applaud him, because then it's less about manipulating markets and more about taking a proactive approach as an investor. If this is where he wants to put his money, then that's entirely up to him. That just makes him, a different kind of investor. And maybe later we'll write books and finance courses about this, and we'll have a different definition of what a modern day activist investor can look like.
What I love about this so much is the who is it? Michael Malice has this quote of something to the effect of the people in power are not as clever as you think. Something to that effect.
Sure.
And seeing this thing happening in GameStop, where the power of the masses can coalesce in such a way as to cause something to occur that you're just like, what are we talking about? People from Reddit can somehow end up on the board of directors of a publicly traded company if they trade right. Excuse me, I thought this game was, buy low, sell high, maybe buy high, sell higher. I thought that was the game. The game is, oh, actually, there's way more things that could happen on this board than we realize. That to me is the thing that's the most exciting, because you break this, then all of a sudden people are going to be like, well, what else can we use the market? How else can we manipulate the market in order to have things that never happened before happened?
Mm-hmm.
The watching this guy stream a couple of days ago, you're sitting there, and whether he's putting on a show or not, is, I mean, it would be embarrassing, mortally and cringe embarrassing, except for the fact that he turned $50,000 into millions of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that credential is worth a Harvard degree. It's worth any status, any position. He did the thing. Whatever you have to say about him, he did the thing. He did the dream of turn $50,000 into something more. And that would have been enough. Now he might be on the board of directors. To me, it gives me such hope that I go, maybe I do want to own at least one share of GameStop, just to be like, kids, back in the day, I had one of the shares. I was participating in this thing, which is part of the threads. When you read the comments and read it online, that's sort of like what people are saying. They go, well, it's part of history to say that I owned one of these. And it turns out if we take a lot of shares out of circulation, maybe it might cause the mother of all short squeezes. So it's sort of like, it's almost stupid not to buy it if I want to be part of the zeitgeist.
I mean, there's a lot we don't know about the current planning that's in place, but there's a couple things I want to touch on here. To your point, this is no longer a dream about just buying low, selling high, right? What I would consider Keith's position on this is second level thinking. Howard Marks refers to this concept of like, don't just do the easy thing, right? Like, invest in the bigger thinking, the bigger picture. What Keith has slowly done is taken his thesis and developed a trade that allowed him to take a dominant position in a company that nobody's even paying attention to. And in doing that, it's created so much attention, so much news, that GameStop has not only been able to raise an enormous amount of capital to put back into operations, but it's also created a ton of attention on the brand again. So adding Keith to the board, or adding Keith as an ambassador to GameStop, could not only create the marketing mechanisms they need in order to do some new initiative, but the very next thing I would expect to see happen in quarter 3 and quarter 4 for GameStop is some big new thing, some product, some service,
Right.
something that people go, see, this is what we put all this money into now. Because that's my next question, is like, how are you putting this capital to work? It's not going to be opening more GameStop stores or doing anything that led to a shortfall in the past. They're going to do something new with this, and bringing Keith on is their marketing engine to do that.
Oh, so exciting. I mean, I'm so proud. It makes me so proud to be a human when I see things like this happen. This to me is like the Mr. Beast equivalent to the stock market. It's like, oh, I cracked the algorithm for YouTube, and all of a sudden I might be the first, billionaire YouTuber. And this guy's like, hey, I'm going to be on the board. Next thing I want to see is, hey, I want to be president of the United States in 2028, and it's some other crazy, a screen name that ends up being like, are you going to vote for Hillary Clinton, or are you going to vote for I can't even think of Sacred Prophet, some sort of a username there. I think that would be absolutely great. What a world to live in.
I share that sentiment, Tom. I honestly think that part of what got me into markets in the first place is that it's a level playing field. I can now play a game with the largest multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar funds in the world, and I can participate in the market with a small amount of capital, relatively small amount of capital, and still have an opportunity to do well in this space. The dream of becoming president is probably more out of touch than becoming a major board member of a large publicly traded company. That said, I don't think I would have considered ever being able to trade my way into a position into a company to be an activist investor, because that felt so out of reach, so out of touch, right? When you first start down this path, you read about these incredible journeys that traders took, the Stephen Coves of the world, the Bill Ackmans of the world, and you're like, nah, I'll never be one of those. I'll never be a billionaire like that. But Roaring Kitty just did it. So that means it's possible, right? It's like the first guy to run a sub 4-minute mile. You were like, oh, well, now it's possible. Now
That's
there's a bunch of
exactly it.
people doing it. Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what happens on what is it, June 17th on Kitty Day. That might be one for the history books.
National Cat Bring Your Cat to Work Day. Yes.